Welcome back to another episode talking all things Chelsea, and there's somebody within the Chelsea squad that we need to have a conversation about. But first, I want to congratulate Cole Palmer on winning England's Player of the Year. Fully deserved. Well, despite not starting a game in the Euros, he still picked up the trophy. I think that tells you a lot about Cole Palmer, but it also tells you a lot about these England players. England play tonight. And for me, you build a team around Cole Palmer. He is that good. He is that good. He needs to be that number 10. For me, he starts in that position every day and twice on a Sunday. So if that means playing Jude Bellingham to fit him in the side as a false nine, so be it. Lee Carsley started Anthony Gordon as a false nine for the under-21s and won a tournament. So there's no doubt he can get that tactically out of Jude Bellingham. But for me, Cole Palmer has to start in that number 10. Now, I think it's about time to have a conversation about Enzo Fernández, because he's a player that divides opinion. You either absolutely love him or you absolutely hate him and want to see him replaced. For me, I'm in the category where he's got a unique skill set. So in possession, I think he's got a unique skill set. He's got a lot of skills that a lot of players don't have. And I think, but there is one thing that does let him down. That's his athleticism, especially in the Premier League. Now, let me dive a little deeper on that. His biggest weaknesses are he's not an athlete. He can't get around the pitch like you would expect or want him to. So when he does go into those left half positions, if there is a quick turnover, he hasn't got the legs to get back and recover the ball. So during transition periods, he becomes extremely exposed, and that gives more responsibility to Caicedo. And that's why Chelsea are getting hit during transition breaks and conceding a lot. Now, with Benfica, he was tasked with this role where he would start out in a double pivot. Now, their wide players would come in and tuck inside and look at pockets of space. He would drift out on the left-hand space, and then he would do his speciality. Enzo Fernández's speciality is hitting diags to the right winger. He did that at Benfica a lot. Now, he'd get away with it at Benfica because they were one of the most dominant sides in their league, whereas Chelsea, there's a lot more tactics that come into play, a lot more physicality that come into play in the Premier League. So how do you fix this? Well, there's a couple of ways you could do it. There is a tactical change, but that would mean playing three in the middle, where it's Lavia, Caicedo and Enzo, and giving Enzo a little bit more license to get forward and just find himself and dictate play. But that's sacrificing an attacking player. Would you sacrifice Cole Palmer? Absolutely not. Would you sacrifice Noni Madueke? No. Would you sacrifice Jadon Sancho? No. So I think that's out of the question, because it would involve Enzo Maresca tactically changing his whole foundation. What I would do to sacrifice this lack of physicality is have him more disciplined, not have him always go out to that left-hand side. One, because he gets in Jadon Sancho's way, and I think we're seeing that a little bit against Nottingham Forest. And two, because he hasn't got the legs to recover. Now, if you've got him more tactically disciplined, then he won't need the legs. Enzo Fernández's best defensive qualities, if there is any, is where he's feisty in closed spaces. In open spaces, that's when he's exposed, because bigger players, more physical players, can just literally move the ball around him and almost bully him. Now, Jorginho is a perfect example. Jorginho under Thomas Tuchel, or Kovacic under Thomas Tuchel, were tactically disciplined. They would keep the shape more than they would roam. And that just gives them better understanding on how to break down play during transition moments. And Enzo Fernández needs to learn this. Now, being more disciplined in his role is one thing. That would also help Caicedo as well. Now, another thing I want to touch upon is his consistency. At Benfica, he had wonderful consistency in his passing, dictating play, and his long-range balls. However, at Chelsea, it has dropped off a little. Now, one thing I will give him the benefit of the doubt on is against Nottingham Forest, he didn't really have the room to play those longer balls. Against Brighton, where the game was like a basketball game and the game was more open, he had some more space where he could find the runners, and he had more runners running into space to execute those passes. Against Nottingham Forest, it was very compact. Nicholas Jackson couldn't make them runs he wanted to because there wasn't much space to do so. So he had less space and less options to execute those passes. Now, one thing I will say as well is he does well in forward passes, but he doesn't do well at the minute, in progressive passes. Now, the difference is a forward pass is just simply a forward pass, passing the 5 yards or whatever. A progressive pass is when you play a forward pass, but also move the team in a different dimension. So move the whole team forwards. That's what a progressive pass is. I want to see more of that from Enzo Fernández. Enzo Fernández's passing range is absolutely unreal, especially when you give him time and space, but also options to pass to. Now, what he needed to do against Nottingham Forest was be more disciplined, because the more he goes into those forward roll movements where it is compact, he's just congesting space more. He should have played more as a deep line playmaker, or in NFL terms, a quarterback, and just sprayed passes to runners. That's a role I expected him to play. That's why I spoke about that in my pre-match preview. But we do need to see more from him. Now, another thing I want to touch upon is during transition moments, he reminds us a little of Jorginho, where sometimes it doesn't look like he's trying to get back and he's a bit lackluster, and sometimes he's got the attitude where it's, oh, I'll just let this one go. Caicedo will probably cover us. You cannot afford to do that in the Premier League because you will be caught out. So Enzo is at his best defensively when everything's in front of him, so he can move 5 yards either side to win the ball back. He's very competitive in congested areas. That's where he wins most of his duels. In open spaces or when he's trying to recover the ball, that's when he gets exposed. Now, another thing that goes against him is the price tag that was paid. It's not his fault. 105 million is not his fault. He did not dictate that price tag. However, he's going to be judged on that parameter. For me personally, I don't think anybody is worth that much. Not Declan Rice, not Moses Caicedo. Nobody is worth 100 million. If we're being open and honest about Enzo Fernández, has he been brilliant? No. Has he been terrible? No. Against Nottingham Forest, he wasn't the player that lost possession most. He lost possession 10 times. Moses Caicedo also lost possession 10 times. Malo Gusto lost possession 15 times. Cole Palmer lost possession 18 times. But the difference is Cole Palmer was taking risks. Enzo Fernández was losing 5-yard passes. Those are the simple and basic, so I can understand the frustration from fans. When it comes to Enzo Fernández, to make a case that he's been absolutely terrible is not the case. There is moments in games where he has been good. Now, he can't play that Benfica role in this Maresca system. He needs to adapt his own game to be more disciplined, and that you'll start getting more out of Enzo Fernández. Finally, I want to touch upon Noni Madueke because he's been unfairly criticised at times. Sometimes you're absolutely right to call him out. But against Nottingham Forest, personally, I thought he chose the right options the majority of the times. He shot when there was no pass available. And you can see, oh, yes, he could have squared it Enzo Fernández at the edge of the box. No, he couldn't, because there was a man already ready to close him down. Now, what would have happened is if he squared that ball, Enzo Fernández would have just swung a leg at it just to get a shot off, and it probably wouldn't have went in. So because Noni Madueke's more in position to shoot, he took the shot. Now, when he went on the outside and looked to put a cross goal on his right foot, but it went over the ball, I think he just actually mishit the ball. I think if you look at that look at it from the angle behind him, he gets it all wrong. What he's trying to do is hit it hard along the goal. And why he's doing that, it's choosing the best option because it can take a deflection and go in or whatever. But he just actually mishits it and it goes slightly outwards. So I think, look, he's absolutely frightening for defenders. If I'm a fullback, I'm having sleepless nights coming up against Noni Madueke. He's made the... I had a look at some stats. Against every Chelsea winger, he ranks first for key passes, first for shot-creating actions, second only behind Jadon Sancho for passes into the penalty box, and second only behind Neto for crosses into the penalty box. So to just say, oh, constantly and always shoots, it's just wrong. Granted, I hold my hands up, he doesn't always get it right, and he doesn't. But what if Enzo Maresca wants him to shoot? What if Enzo Maresca's telling him to cut inside and have a go? Because the keeper could parry it, and then there's a tap in for a forward. Anything can happen. So what if Enzo Maresca's instructing him to do it? You've got to listen to your manager. I don't mind a player having a shot. If he creates the opportunity, I do not mind it. Not one bit. I'd rather my forwards to have a go than not have a go. Now, there is times where people are in better positions. I get that. But they are few and far between. Because those chances against Nottingham Forest, he actually made the right decision when you study the images. Every player was marked. So I think we just need to cut him some slack, encourage him. And then, you know what? He's still young. His decision-making isn't going to be perfect. We need to normalise these players, I'm telling you. We expect too much. We expect too much consistency to go out and perform 100% of the time, every time. Nobody in any workforce does that, let alone professional sports. But yeah, that's all I've got to say. But don't forget, I forgot to mention, don't forget to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button to support this channel. But once again, I appreciate your time. Let us know your thoughts on Enzo Fernández. I would love to hear from you guys and what your perception is of Enzo Fernández. Let us know in the comments below.